things that I've noticed is that it's not so much that we don't necessarily know how to cast a spell, that we don't know how to get the machinations of magic to work on our behalf, because there's a lot of guidance for that out there. There's all kinds of stuff you can do. And it's not so much the doing of magic where I think that we have a disconnect with our success rate. A disconnect with our success rate is not only in the receiving end of it, which is huge, not receiving the results. We've talked about that before, but feeling deserving of the results. And I think one of the reasons why we don't think that we deserve to have our needs met or to have our goals met, our desires fulfilled, is because we don't think that we are lovable. And we don't feel that we are loved. And it's so easy to call upon gods and goddesses and even the idea of infinite intelligence, infinite love, to do all of that as if we're supposed to give a bunch of praise, give a bunch of love. And that's wonderful. But what about the other side of it, where we're receiving that love, where the infinite is loving us back, where we actually receive the love that is our birthright? If we realized how much we are loved, we would change our minds about so many things. And if we changed our minds about so many things, we change our experience of so many things. We understand that thought is creative. That's part of a basic principle within the craft. That's how we're able to manipulate reality for ourselves. If you want to cast a spell, you create in some way or another a thought form, a form made of thought. And that thought form, if it's strong enough to overcome the thought form that is what you want to replace, then you get a result. Say you have an experience in your finances that is not what you want. Let's say you're only making a certain amount of money and it's not covering your expenses. Let's just put a number to that. Let's say you're making $25,000 a year and it's not quite enough. You're grateful that you have the job, but it's just not enough and you need more. And you decide, I really need to increase my income by $10,000 or $20,000 a year. I really need to increase it significantly. What you do then is to create a thought form of that desire through things like visualizations, incantations, energy work, and you keep that up for as long as you need to in order to be assured that thought form is strong and that it's going to replace the thought form of the $20,000 a year. That's how it works. But what about the thought form of, but I don't really deserve this money because I'm not loved? What about that thought form? We forget that thought form is already there. And that thought form, I don't deserve what I want. I only deserve a little bit. I don't deserve abundance. I deserve a little bit because I'm not loved. I'm not lovable, possibly. What about that thought form? That thought form has to be replaced. Because until we replace that thought form, all of those thought forms about specifics are temporary. They're very fragile because maybe yes, maybe no, in regards to that $30,000 or $40,000 a year that you want, because I'm not loved. I'm not lovable. I don't deserve it. I don't deserve anything that's farther along than just barely surviving because I'm only good enough for that. Now, there's all kinds of places where you might have picked up those ideas that you're not lovable. The whole world wants to support that belief that we're not lovable, that we're not worthy of joy and happiness and prosperity, abundance, and all of those things. You probably got it from your parents, you got it from your school, you got it from your friends, you got it from advertising, you got it from all kinds of places because the basic bottom line in the world is, you're not good enough. You're not lovable. You don't deserve it. Only these people over there deserve it. And so then we have these people over there that are the deserving people. But if you talk to those people, they don't feel loved either. And that's why maybe they have some of those things that you decide that you want, but they don't have any of the other things that maybe you already take for granted. So nobody's happy. Nobody feels loved. We're all in this together. And that's why it seems like, well, I can get this area of my life together, but then I can't get that area of my life together. I can maybe get the money together, but then I can't get the relationships together. I can get the relationships together, but I can't get the home life together. I can get the home life together, but then I can't get my friendships together. And it's always this game of whack-a-mole, isn't it? People say, I need a spell to have a balance in my life where everything's working at once. And that's actually going in the right direction. That idea of what about a thought form that allows us to have just generalized success in all areas of our life? That thought form is, I'm lovable. I am loved. I deserve happiness. I deserve joy. Not because I did something special, not because I got the right spell, not because I figured out a formula, but because of who I am. If we understood our relationship to the creative force of the universe was, outside of this fragmented world was, if we understood how loved we really are, none of this would matter. We'd make so many different choices about our lives. We wouldn't hold the resentments that we hold because they wouldn't matter anymore. We wouldn't have the poverty that we have. We wouldn't see people in distress and look the other way. We wouldn't have people starving. If we realized how loved we are, none of what we do would stay the same. And so it behooves us to just consider how loved we already are. This world does not want you to know that. This world is set up to distract you from that. It is a conspiracy. It's a conspiracy, and we are all complicit. We all are complicit in detaching ourselves from the truth of how loved we are and how lovable we are, how filled with joy we could be if we but allowed ourselves to know this. From Spirit's point of view, love is a constant. Happiness is constant. Joy is constant. There is none of this, a little bit of love, a little bit of hate, a little bit of fear, a little bit of safety, a little bit of hunger, a little bit of satisfaction, a little bit of youth, a little bit of age. There's none of that in Spirit. From Spirit's point of view, the joy that is for you is constant. The happiness that is for you is constant. The prosperity that is for you is constant. But because we don't believe that, because we've never been taught that, that wasn't even something that we could conceive of, let alone consider and accept for ourselves, we don't even think about it. We don't even consider the idea that we are loved beyond measure, unconditionally, no matter what. Never consider that, let alone experience it, let alone feel it. And therefore, we never give that. I don't think I've ever been able to completely 100% be unconditional in my love for other people. I try, I'd love to do that, but we don't do that. The reason I know I can't do that is because I haven't felt that loved yet, but I'm willing to. I'm willing to know the love that the infinite has for me, and therefore I'm willing to know what it feels like to give that love to others. We are so wrapped up in who deserves our love and who doesn't, based on their actions, based on their history. And remember what that Jesus character from the New Testament used to always talk about. When you judge, that's how you're judged. What you give is what you get. Simple rules of magic there. You get what you give. You receive how you perceive. If you're unwilling to perceive another person as lovable, as being worthy of the unconditional love of the universe, then you are telling yourself that you are limiting your ability to experience that love from the universe. And that's the game we play here. The game we play here is fragmentation. Think about what the whole mystery of Lucifer is. Lucifer had an idea. Lucifer had an idea. And it was an idea that wasn't in concert with the infinite. It wasn't an idea that was a co-creation. It was an idea of arrogance. I know what should happen based on what I say. And so that one little mad idea of Lucifer was enough to fragment the entirety of all of humanity. And when we fragment into little egos, we exist in a world of fear because it's us against them. And when we live in that world of fear and fragmentation, the only way out of that is for Lucifer to rise back up again after the fall. And so the myth of that, the story of that, it's just a story. Don't get superstitious about Lucifer either. But the whole idea of that Luciferian rising is that Lucifer can't rise completely until everybody rises with Lucifer, until we all become one again. So to the degree that we are unwilling to have others in our lives be as lovable as we desire to be, we are reinforcing that fragmentation. We were talking about forgiveness. Boy, you'd think I was talking about killing babies or something when I talk about forgiveness. When I talk about cursing, everybody's, yeah. But when I talk about forgiveness, they're all like, ah. I always find it so funny. But anyway, we were talking about forgiveness, and somebody that I think they're from a Christian perspective said, no, you only have to forgive people who repent. And I thought that was interesting. You only have to forgive people who repent. Anybody else that doesn't repent, you don't have to forgive them. And I guess that's a Christian belief. I'm not a Christian, so I don't know about that. But from a Luciferian perspective, that doesn't make sense. Because from a Luciferian perspective, we don't come back to that state of oneness until the mind of the child of the infinite is one. From Lucifer's perspective, no, we're not done until everybody is there. Everybody. 100%. It's all or nothing. And this is going to happen. It is the will of God, and it's going to take nothing but time. So from Lucifer's point of view, all of us must be one. And so that's why this idea of forgiveness is tough. I understand that it is tough, but that's just one aspect of it. Because the idea of forgiveness is that you're willing for everybody to receive the love from the universe that is their birthright. And you're not willing to withhold that, no matter what they've done or said or whatever. And the reason why you do that isn't necessarily because you care about them, but it's because you care about yourself. Because you want that love. Because you can't have something that you are willing to withhold. If you're willing to withhold something from any aspect of the child of God, then you are willing to withhold that from yourself. That's just the basics of that metaphysics. And that's why those sayings are there. Things like, judge not lest you be judged. That's just a metaphysical principle. You are going to judge yourself based on how you judge the world. We're not going to get back into forgiveness because we've beaten that to a pulp. But let's just talk about love and being loved by spirit. If you were able to experience yourself as the loving child of the universe, who your creator loves no matter what, the goddess loves you no matter what you think you've done. If you really were able to experience that and receive it and allow her truth to be the truth rather than your own truth, you wouldn't have to worry about your spells coming true or not coming true. Because of course you can have that money. You can have as much money as you want. The universe loves you. Of course you can have that money. Of course you can have a relationship. Of course you can have good health. Of course you can have the things that you want. Because those things are just a little pale representation of the greater gifts that are already yours. Infinite intelligence doesn't withhold from you. Infinite love, the love of the Creator for its children, doesn't withhold, doesn't play favorites either. So no matter what you think you've done or haven't done in your life, you are loved the same. And the same is true for everybody else. They are as well. So one of the best things you can do for someone who's struggling is see them as being loved. Not necessarily only that you're sending love to them, but you see them as being loved. Because if you can see them as being loved, they can see them as being loved on some level, because all minds are one. And if you can see them as being loved by their creator, you can see yourself as being loved by your creator. Because there's something interesting in this world, and that is you can't just do everything all by yourself. You can't just do everything all by yourself. Everybody is in this together. I think one of the biggest issues that we have is that we ascribe human traits to the divine. And we've always done that in all of our mythologies. Mythology is really about us, not about the infinite, because the infinite doesn't have any of that. Infinite love doesn't have a story about you. Infinite intelligence doesn't say, if I look back at your whole life, you did this well, but you didn't do that well. So you can have a little bit of happiness because it's very transactional here in heaven. Thinking about that from a logical point of view, how could that be? That infinite love loves you just a little bit because of what you did or didn't do, based on your own fragmented thinking, because you didn't know any better. Look back at your life. Really just look back. Just think about your biggest mistake that you can come up with, the thing that you really messed up on really bad. I'm sure everybody's got at least one, unless you're different. The rest of us, though, let's look at least one thing that we're just like, when you think back at it, it's just, I can't believe I did that. Were you in a moment of pain or uncertainty or fear? Or did you just say, no, I'm going to just do the worst possible thing I can do because I think that would be a fun thing to do? I have a feeling you didn't do it because you were trying to be bad necessarily. I think you did it because you didn't know what else to do. You did it thoughtlessly, perhaps. You did it out of fear, perhaps. You did it out of anger, perhaps, which is a type of fear. You did it out of desperation. Who knows? All of those things. But you didn't do it just because you thought it would be a nice thing to make a mistake. So infinite intelligence is not stupid. That's the whole idea, that it's infinite intelligence. So if you're smart enough to know that if you look honestly at your mistake, that you did the best you could in that moment, and if you knew better, if you had better conditioning, if you had a better upbringing, if you had better information about who you are and why you're here, you probably would have done things differently. So if that's the case, why would infinite intelligence be holding that against you? The only time so-called karma has any value is if it teaches you something. And the ultimate lesson you have to learn is that you're lovable. You're lovable. You deserve love. You deserve infinite love. You deserve to know who you are as a soul. You deserve to know who you are as a creature of love. And that's what infinite intelligence ultimately wants to teach you. And the sooner you learn that lesson, all of those other things just fall away. They just fall away. And you want to love other people then. It's just spontaneous. You want to forgive other people. It's spontaneous. You want everybody else to experience that kind of love like you're experiencing. It's just natural. Try going straight for feeling loved by spirit and see what you can cut through, how much of that Gordian's knot you can cut through just by going straight to source and saying, I'm willing to feel loved. I'm willing to know how loved I am, no matter what. So if you are in a place where it is appropriate for you, that you're not going to get into any kind of trouble closing your eyes, go ahead and close your eyes for a minute. Take some deep breaths. Relax your body. Relax your mind. And just know that there is a spiritual source. To many of us, that source is a goddess. To many of us, it's a goddess and a god. It's a parental unit. To some of us, it's a god. To some of us, there is no gender associated with this force. But it is the force out of which you are created. There's only one. In the Psalms, they call it the Lord or God. And this source extends itself as you. And that's who you are as a soul. You're an extension of pure love and are created out of an act of love. And this source is so pleased with you and adores you and loves you and only wants you to be happy, only wants you to be free and joyous. And that this happiness, this joy, this freedom doesn't have levels. It doesn't have cycles. It doesn't come and go. It's maximal. Allow yourself to just sit with that and experience that and receive that joy, receive that love, and know this is who you really are as a soul. And you exist far above the dramas of your life, far above all of the ins and outs, day-to-days, storylines, problems, successes, victories, tragedies. You exist far above that. And as you receive this love, and you know that this love is eternal and can never stop, will never end, and you begin to look out upon your life with this same love and this same compassion that is given you. And when you do that, everything starts to change. So now start to see yourself beholding the different areas of your life, giving those areas of your life an extension of the same love that you are created out of. You're doing the same thing for the things in your life that the infinite is doing for you. And notice the difference in the way you relate to these people, these circumstances, etc. You can just gently come back into the room and open your eyes. But you see how different that is than if you decide that you want to cast a spell for money? That you're seeing it as an extension of love, an extension of that abundance. What is that money going to do for the whole world then? It's going to be a blessing on the world. It's not just your money then. It's a tool for blessing all of the world. If you doing a spell for healing, instead of just, okay, it's just about my body, it's about my kidney, it's about my leg, it becomes an extension of love. The love that you always already receive is just an extension of that same love, that same light. Healing spell is assured, isn't it? Because it's not only about your leg or your kidney or whatever it is. It's about a blessing on the entire world. When you start to realize that you're here as a blessing for the world, rather than you're here to get what you need to get in order to survive, everything changes. Because you took the time to receive the love that's already there for you. And you see you can't receive something without giving it. It's spontaneous. So it's so important for us to take time to remember that we are created out of love and that we are loved and that nothing in this world that we've ever said, ever done, changes that. And that's not license to just say, since I'm loved, I can just do whatever I want. I don't have to be nice to people. It doesn't work that way. Because you don't make those choices. If you're coming from an act of love, if you're feeling that love that you have, that the universe has for you, if you really are experiencing that, you don't choose to betray other people. You don't choose to harm other people. You don't choose to get what's yours, regardless of what happens to others around you. It doesn't work that way anymore. You start to see things very differently, and you start to have power over your life, power over these circumstances. And that power is very potent. And a lot of people in this world laugh at it because they think love is wimpy. They think love is silly. That's no mistake. That's how the ego works, is to belittle the very power out of which you are created. But don't allow yourself to belittle that power, because once you receive that love and you feel that love that the universe has for you, you can't help but extend that love. And when you extend that love out, everything changes. So I invite you this next week to take some time and simply feel loved. Simply feel the love that the Creator has for you. And you don't have to use any terminology that you don't like. Whatever works for you, whatever you perceive that creative force as being, that's right. That's perfect for you. And you receive the love from that creative force, and you understand that's the one and only truth. And anything that doesn't look like that love is not something that you need to consider in that moment. And then when you come back into your own life from that point of view, you won't be able to help but love others. You won't be able to help but be successful and be free and be healthy and all of those things. It's just natural. And that's the way it's supposed to be. And that's how we heal. That's how that Luciferian uprising happens, one mind at a time. And it becomes very contagious. And that's our role. That's our job in the craft. It's our true job here in the craft, is to be this sort of spiritual Luciferian underground, agents of love, agents of light. Because you can't talk to people about this. They get very upset if you talk to people about any of this, but you don't need to talk to people about it. It becomes its own contagion in the best, most positive, most wonderful way. So allow yourself this week, if you think that this is an interesting idea, to just spend time being loved. You don't have to do anything else. Just spend time feeling the love that the universe has for you. And see how much you can take. See how much you can withstand that love. Because sometimes it's a little much to bear because it's so different from what we're used to. But allow yourself to at least have a few minutes a day where you're feeling the love that the universe has for you, and that the universe loves you so infinitely that you can't even conceive of it because there's no worldly counterpart to that. And that's how you become detached from the world as you know it and start to reaffirm who you are on the level of the soul. And then you're coming from the true causal plane at that point. So then you have all the power that you need to change anything that needs to be changed in the world, because you're coming from that spiritual power, which is pure love. Thank you so much for spending some time with me today. I so appreciate you. Until next time, blessed be.